G'day guys, today we're going to be installing the latest version of Miyoo custom firmware on our Powkiddy V90. This custom firmware adds a bunch of new features and systems it can emulate, and it should offer better performance over stock. Let's get into it. We're over on our Windows 10 computer now, and to get started, just going to open up Google Chrome and type in MiyooCFW, one word. Want to click on the top GitHub link, Triforce X, scroll down a little bit. On the right hand side, click on Releases. Make sure we've selected the latest version, which at the time of filming is version 2, beta 2. Scroll down a little bit. Under Assets, download the zip file. It's around 500 meg. While that's downloading, we'll also need a tool to write the image to our SD card. Going back to Google, type in Rufus, R-U-F-U-S. Click on the top link, rufus.ie. Scroll down a little bit. Under Downloads, I like to download the portable version since it doesn't need installing. At the time of filming, 4.6p. Once both of those files are finished downloading, we can close off Chrome and open up our Downloads folder. Inside your Downloads folder, you should see the MiyooCFW zip file. We just want to right click on it and extract. You can use any compression program you like, but I prefer 7-zip. Once it's finished extracting, we're just going to insert the SD card we'll be installing it to into our cheap USB SD reader, and we'll pop it into the side of the computer. I do recommend using a fresh high quality SD card for two reasons. One, the stock SD card is generally low quality and may corrupt itself fairly quickly. And two, if for some reason you can't get the custom firmware working or you don't like it as much as stock, you can just go back to using your original card. With that said, we're going to open up Rufus. At the top, under Device, make sure you have selected the SD card you'll be writing to. For me, 32 gig. Under Boot Selection, leave it as disk or ISO image and click Select. Navigate to your Downloads folder and open up the MiyooCFW folder. We'll be writing the UCLIBC image today since it is more stable. So open up that folder and inside you should have your disk image. Double click on it. Leave everything else as default. Double check you have selected the correct SD card from the drop down and click Start when ready. Just note you will lose all files on the SD card that you're writing it to. So make sure it's either blank or you've backed everything up. Once you've confirmed you have the correct SD card, click OK on the warning and it should start writing the image. It doesn't take too long to write, only about a minute depending on the speed of your SD card. Once it's finished writing, just click close, and we do want to safely eject the SD card. With that done, we'll put the SD card back into our V90. With the SD card inserted, we're going to power it on for the first time. You can see the Miyoo splash screen. First thing we want to do is press down and press right to select yes and press start. On the next screen, go down to V90 since that's the system we're using and press start. Press start again, press start again. Once you've read the license agreement, press right to highlight yes and press start. Press start again to expand the main partition. If everything's done correctly, you should see the MiyooCFW little custom loading screen. You can press start on that screen to skip it. And here we are. It's loaded into the custom firmware. Out of the box, it doesn't come with any ROMs, so we will have to copy our own. Copying ROMs to it's a little bit different from stock, especially if you're using a Windows computer. Instead of putting the micro SD card back into our computer, instead we'll be connecting a USB cable to it. I'm just using a standard USB-C to USB-A cable, and I'll just plug it into the bottom USB-C port like that, and I'll move back over to our computer and we'll plug the other side in. So with our Powkiddy turned on and the USB-C cable connected, it's going to plug the other end into our computer, and it should enumerate. It did. We have a new folder now called Miyoo Handheld. If for some reason that didn't work for you, over on your V90, go down to USB MTD and press A. That should set it into USB device mode. From here, we can just double click on Miyoo Handheld and we have our three partitions. The one that we'll be using most of the time for all of our ROMs and apps will be the main partition. The custom firmware works a little bit differently to other handhelds you might have used, like the R36S or RetroPie, in that you can put your ROMs pretty much anywhere you want since there is a built-in file browser on the V90. To keep it simple though, it's recommended to put all of your ROMs inside the ROMs folder and then inside their own little folder. You'll notice there's no PS1 folder, so we will just create our own. Just right click, new folder at the bottom, and we'll call it PS1. You can do the same for any other systems you want to add. You can install your own custom apps and emulators onto this device, so I think we will download and install the latest standalone version of PCSX. Just going back to Google Chrome, I'm going to type in MiyooCFW once more. Go to the same Triforce X GitHub link. This time we want to scroll down on this page. Under Resources, you should see a bunch of little submenus. We'll click on Emulators, we'll go down. You can see there are a fair few available. I want to get PCSX rearmed. Just click on it, and on this page, just scroll down, I'll download the IPK file. There's quite a few interesting files available here. You can download skins and front ends like Simple Menu. There's some tools and demos available, and there's even homebrews and ports. So with our PCSX downloaded, I'm going to close out of Chrome, go back to our downloads, and I'm just going to copy PCSX.IPK, go to our Miyoo handheld folder, go to the main partition. I'll probably put it under the Emus folder. You can put it anywhere you want, and I'll just paste it in here. I'll copy a few test ROMs over to our handheld, and we'll come back. So we've copied all of our test ROMs over. Let's take a look around this custom firmware. The screen does have a default timeout where it'll turn itself off. The system is still running, but all you have to do to turn the screen back on is press the menu button at the top. So similar to stock OS, use the L1 and R1 buttons to change the tabs. We'll start off with apps. You've got Commander, FF Play, which is our movie player. Commander is just a file manager, by the way, similar to Explorer. Joymap, audio recorder, video recorder. I have a feeling that's going to slow it down even more. Simple terminal, that might be pretty cool. TV out, on and off, which is quite interesting. So there's no TV out port on this little V90 by default, but this custom firmware does allow you to connect a 3.5mm 4-pole video out cable. So we'll definitely try that out. USB HID, USB host. I believe USB host might let us connect things like flash drives and keyboards over USB, so we'll try that out as well. USB MTD, which just lets us mount it to our Windows computer. USB serial and Explorer, which we've mentioned. These are all the RetroArch cores. There's quite a few different systems available now. You just got RetroArch and RetroArch Last Played. Games section is empty. As mentioned, you can download and install your own, and settings. So I think we'll install our standalone PCSX emulator. To do that, just go to whatever tab you want to install it on. I'll probably add it under cores, press select, bring up this little menu, go down to add link, press A. Now we want to select our file. I copied it under Emus, so go to Emus, and there it is there, PCSX.IPK. Press A, and it'll go through its install process, and that's done. Didn't take long at all. Press A, press B to exit, press B to exit again, and it wasn't under cores, it actually installed itself to Emus, so that is interesting. But there it is there. This is different in that it's not using RetroArch, it is standalone. If you downloaded the PCSX standalone from Retro Game Corp's website, you would install it the same way. Only theirs isn't actually an installer. It is just a link, so you can add it to any tab. The process is the same though. We'll try it a few systems and see how well they perform. So you do have a few choices for some emulators. I think I'll do QuickNES since that does sound fast. And again, the little file browser, go to Mega Man 2. So NES emulation does seem to work fine. You might notice Mega Man 2's health bar is a little bit squished. That is just because of the scaling. To bring up the menu, just press the little menu button again. And this is RetroArch, so you do have access to the full RetroArch settings, including overlays, which do slow it down a fair bit. But for Game Boy or NES, you should be fine. Definitely wouldn't recommend it for PlayStation or Super Nintendo though. To quit out of a game now, on the RetroArch menu, just press B, press up to go down to quit, and press A. Press B to go back to the main menu. Try Game Boy, Super Mario Land Classic. It does seem to load instantly, which is pretty awesome, and it is full speed. So that's fine. Again, press menu to bring up RetroArch, press B to go back, and quit. We'll use GPSP, since that's generally a faster emulator, but less accurate. Go down to ROMs, GBA, and we'll try DKC2. So first impressions, it does run a lot faster than the stock OS, which is great. Stock OS was a little bit choppy. Also, this does have fast forward, it's R2. And it's not that fast, but it's definitely faster than default. We'll try SNES 9X 2002, since I believe that is slightly faster, but less accurate as well. Annoyingly, the buttons aren't mapped correctly, but we can obviously change that in RetroArch settings. It does seem to run a lot better than stock still, which is good. But just the button mapping out of the box being different is a little bit annoying. Not too sure why they didn't fix that. I think we'll close 2002 and we'll load it back up in the 2005 version. So this is the 2005 version. You can see it is running a lot slower by default. I haven't changed any settings. This is 100% stock. And the buttons are still mapped incorrectly. Obviously, we could turn on settings like speed hacks and remap the buttons. But SNES 9X 2002 is definitely faster than 2005. At least stock. We'll try the RetroArch Core version of PCSX, see how well that runs, just using Crash Bandicoot as our test ROM. I didn't add any BIOS files, we are using the stock HLE BIOS. So it is running quite slowly. You can see it's a little bit of a slideshow. Again, you can add frame skip, or maybe some speed hacks depending on the game. But stock, it is quite slow. Probably about the same as the stock OS actually. We'll close out of this and we'll try the standalone PCSX. So again, it installed under Emus, not under cores. Just open it up. This does seem to run very, very slightly faster. Maybe an extra 2 or 3 frames a second, not much. If we go into our options menu, you can see, well, first of all, we get the error message saying we don't have a BIOS. That's fine, just press B. You can see it is standalone and we're not using the RetroArch settings. We'll go down to options. We'll turn frame skip to 1. Show frames a second. Leave everything else as default, I think. We'll see how well that runs. That is much better. It is choppy because of the frame skip, but it is pretty much perfectly playable now anyway. Go back into settings, go to credits. You can see this is the October 14th, 2024 build. The version on Retro Game Corp's website is from 2019, but it is the same program. I have tested their 2019 build, and it's about the same as far as performance goes, just something to keep in mind. I think next we'll try out the USB host option, and I'll just use a cheap USB-C OTG adapter with just a basic flash drive formatted as FAT32. Plug it into the single USB-C port. And I won't select USB host just yet. I'll open up Explorer. It might be under Mount. No, Media. We might have to use USB host. Now that's done. We'll go back to Explorer. Go down to Media. Still not there. Not under Mount. So I'm not too sure where it will be if it is mounted. I'll try unplug it and replug it just in case. The status light on my flash drive isn't flashing, so I'm guessing it isn't detected. So maybe USB host is for something different. Maybe gamepads, not for flash drives. Next, let's try out our TV out function. Again, you do just plug it into the headphone socket down here. As for the cable, I'm just using this one I found from one of my boxes. It's 4-pole, 3.5mm jack to just standard composite video and or stereo audio. I will put the pin out on screen, just if you wanted to make your own. Okay, we've set up our little TV, and I'll just plug it into the headphone port, as mentioned. So nothing happened out of the box. You do have to select TV out on or off, so we'll just select that, press A. The system does reboot, and hopefully we get something on the screen. There we go, it does work. This is pretty impressive. This isn't available on stock OS. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. It obviously looks terrible because I'm using a cheap TV and it is composite video. But, yeah, very impressive nonetheless. We'll try a game out. So it does work. Interestingly, the analog volume wheel on our handheld does control the TV volume. So that is just another neat little feature. I'm super impressed with this. Not too sure how functional it is. Most people aren't going to want to bring this to sort of a hotel and plug it into their TV. That's if the TV even has composite video. But it is pretty cool. You can hear the sounds a bit choppy. I guess it is doing a fair bit of processing on the fly. It's emulating and also trying to force TV out. But it does still work. There's no input lag, which is great. So if we unplug it now, you can see the sound does come out from the handheld. You can see the screen's still off. It is still in TV out mode, so plug it back in, should turn straight back on. It does. So I'll just power off the system, power it back on. We'll get the custom firmware logo, and the screen will go black, because it is still in TV out mode. You should hear the Game Boy chime, there it is there. Let's give it a second to finish booting. Haven't pressed any buttons yet. And it should be booted by now, so we'll just hold down select. And it should reboot into standard mode. There we go. And there we go. It is working again. Overall, I found the custom firmware to be a lot better than the stock OS. Even if you don't use any of the fancy features like TV out, there is still a lot more systems that you can emulate now. And with pretty much all of them using RetroArch by default, it can be fully customized to how you like it, including shaders. I understand a lot of people don't like to tinker with RetroArch, or just don't like RetroArch in general, find it a bit confusing. That's fair enough. You can still install standalone emulators, similar to the stock OS, only with greatly improved performance. I am planning on trying out a lot more games for the higher end systems like GBA, PS1, and SNES, just to see how well they run now compared to the stock OS. I think that'll do it for today. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.